Manhattan Democratic Commissioner for now, and I am the warm and fuzzy president for now. Would the commissioners to my left announce their presence for the record?
Julie Sam, Brooklyn Democrat. Welcome everyone.
Michael Michelle, Queens Republican.
Simon Schmidt, Kings Republic.
Mike Rendino, Bronx County.
Senior staff?
Pamela Perkins, Administrative Manager.
Nina M. Crispino, Director of Personnel.
Raphael Sino, Deputy General Counsel.
Steve Richmond, General Counsel.
Matthew Graves, candidate representative.
Uh,
Dunkirk, Council Commission. Kenneth Miltner, Council Commission.
We are convening a meeting of the Board of Canvassers to certify the results of the June 24, 2014 Democratic and Republican parties for federal office. Pursuant to the provisions of Title II of Article 9 of the New York State election law, specifically Section 9-204, I now call the meeting of the Board of Canvassers in the City of New York to order for the purposes of certifying the recanvass of votes cast on June 24, 2014, the Democratic and Republican federal office primary elections in the City of New York. To serve as the Democratic member of the canvassing board, Mr. Richmond.
Yeah.
This is Carl's good.
Mr. President, the other member, you requested to designate you to the other borough commissioners, except for Manhattan and the city wasn't designated an additional commissioner.
Given this sparse attendance, I'll designate myself as the Democratic member for the canvassing board for each, and I will appoint Commissioner Michelle likewise as a Republican member. Moving right along.
Two more commissioners.
Excuse me?
Two more.
Commissioners Dent and Rendino. It's my understanding that the Deputy Chief Clerks of the Bronx and the staff have prepared to sign the return of canvass. Are they here?
Yes, you are.
Please step forward and present your report.
Mr. Graves? Yes.
Thank you. Do you confirm the results presented are accurate and correct?
Yes, we do.
Actually, please state your presence for the record.
Anthony J. Riverstella, Deputy Chief Clerk.
Marika Scott McFadden, Deputy Chief Clerk.
Are there any discrepancies to report to the board?
No.
Has the audit of voter verifiable audit records for both the false and central count scanners required by Section 9-211 of the New York State election law been successfully completed?
Yes.
Based on that report, I move the Board of Canvass to certify the return of canvass for the Democratic and Republican Party federal office primary election conducted in Bronx County on June 24, 2014. Seconded by Commissioner Roger. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good job.
Is the clerks from Kings County here?
Yes.
Please step forward and state your presence for the record.
I'm Diane Rudiano, the Chief Clerk.
And I'm Betty Ann Canizio, the Deputy Chief.
Good afternoon. Do you have the prepared signed return of canvass for the Democratic and Republican Party federal office primary elections in Kings County for June
Yes.
24, 2014?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you both confirm the results presented are accurate and correct?
Yes.
Are there any discrepancies to report to the board?
No.
Has the audit of voter verifiable audit records for both the false and central count scanners required by Section 9-211 of the New York State election law been successfully completed?
Yes.
Based on that report, I move that the Board of Canvassers certify the return of canvass for the Democratic and Republican Party federal office primary election conducted in Kings County on June 24, 2014. Seconded by Commissioner Dent. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much also, Diane, and Betty Ann. Please let the staff know as well.
We would like to say that this is the first election we've certified without our longtime deputy and sometime chief, Mary Rose, and without our longtime director of the office, James Howley. We're very grateful to the staff for stepping out to the plate, and very grateful to have Betty Ann on board.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Is New York County prepared?
Yes, we are, sir.
Please step forward.
Gregory Lehman, Chief Clerk.
Alan Shilton, Deputy.
We are joined by both commissioners from Staten Island. Commissioner Costello and Commissioner Petrie. Also, the late Michael Ryan finally joined us. Just wanted to let everybody know you're here. Have you prepared and signed return of canvass for the Democratic and Republican Party federal office primary elections in New York County on June 24, 2014?
Democratic primary, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, just the Democratic primary. Do you have that?
Yes, I do.
Please hand it up. You confirm that results presented are accurate and correct.
Yes, we do.
Are there any discrepancies to report to the board?
There is one, we had a missing poll list book, and the details are in the memo included in the report.
Thank you. Has the audit of voter verifiable audit records for both the poll site and central count scanners required by section 9-211 of New York State election law been successfully completed?
Yes, it has.
Based on that, I move that the Board of Canvassers certify the return of canvass to the Democratic federal office primary election conducted in New York County on June 24, 2014.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Rogers. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstained? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Is Queens County available? Gentlemen, please identify yourselves for the record.
Deputy Chief Clerk. Robert Tyke, Administrative Associate.
Thank you. Have you prepared and signed the return of canvass for your Democratic and Republican primaries?
Yes.
Okay. Have you prepared and signed the return of canvass for both those primaries for the federal office primary election conducted in Queens County on June 24, 2014?
Yes.
Thank you. And you confirm the results presented are accurate and correct?
Yes.
Are there any discrepancies to report to the board?
No.
Has the audit of voter verifiable audit records for both the poll site and central count scanners required by section 9-211 of the New York State election law been successfully completed?
Yes.
Based upon that, I move that the Board of Canvassers certify the return of canvass to the Democratic and Republican Party federal office primary elections in Queens County on June 24, 2014.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Michelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? That's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. On behalf of Commissioner Michelle and I, we thank you and the staff.
Thank you.
And there's nothing crossing county lines.
No. We do have the two recaps in front of us. Two cross-county districts.
Well, I just asked you, crossing county, you said no.
Not since that now.
Not to say no.
I have been presented with a recap statement according to our counsel, Steve Richmond.
The 7th and 13th Democratic congressional primaries.
Thank you. Who prepared those?
The candidate records either Mr. Graves.
Mr. Graves,
Yes, sir.
since you prepared them, why don't you tell us what they are?
These are the recap statement for District 7 and 13, which are crossover districts.
Okay, I move that we adopt those recap statements and return of canvass to Democratic and Republican Party federal office primary elections conducted on June 24, 2014 for those congressional districts that cross county lines. Second by Commissioner Rogers. All in favor? Any opposed or abstained? No. Motion carries, and I move that we authorize the commissioners' stamps for signatures.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Michelle. All in favor? Any opposed or abstained? Terrific. I move that we adjourn. Anybody want to second that? Second. So all in favor? Anybody else? Any opposed or abstained? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Now I call to order the regular meeting. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for June 17, 2014 and July 1st, 2014. Does everybody have the opportunity to review them? Moved by Commissioner Rogers. I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed or abstained?
Abstain from July 1st.
Abstain as to 7-1.
Okay. Did you get that? 100% for each? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. The last item on the agenda is Michael J. Ryan. Take your time.
I'm just finishing the documentation. Relevant and pertinent documentation for the commission. Three A, is the presentation of the car service contract. We have We had a car service contract for after hours at the general office, Prime Time. Prime Time was unable to meet the terms and conditions of the contract, and at their request, they were allowed to opt out of the contract because of their inability to meet the terms. A company named as CTG filled in as a stopgap in the interim while we prepared and released a competitive sealed bid. Prior to the competitive sealed bid going out to bid, we received approval as to form from the City Law Department. Subsequently, we went through the bid process. A company by the name of First Class won the bid. It is a 2-year contract for $1,030,425. They have received Vendex approval, they have DOI clearance, and clearance from the mayor's office on contracts. And I'm simply asking that, in accordance with our procedures here, since the contract is in excess of $100,000, that I receive full board approval to execute that contract on behalf of the agency.
So moved.
Any discussion? Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? I'll abstain. Anything else? Okay, move to adjourn.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We had anything else on that matter? I'm sorry, there is other stuff on the agenda.
And I have a personnel matter.
We are joined by Commissioner Humane,
Right.
the warm and fuzzy Republican from New York County.
And
The other?
late Thursday, we received a phone call, kind of late in the day, I guess it was, not so late, maybe 12 o'clock. There is a petition that was anticipated and has now been filed with the city clerk to amend the charter of the city of New York to establish the high-rise safety initiative. We had conversations with the city clerk and the city law department over the intervening several days, and we revived a memorandum of understanding that had been previously executed in 2009 on a similar issue, and we made some language changes to the MOU as recently as noon, 11:45 this morning. We were continuing to fine-tune the agreement so that it meets the needs of the city clerk and meets the needs of the board as well as the city of New York. And basically what happens is there's a petition inclusive of approximately 60 volumes containing about 60,000 signatures that the city clerk is requesting that we go through and vet against the voter rolls of the city of New York to make a determination that the folks, A, live where they say they live, B, were eligible to vote as of October 11, 2013, which is required for them to be eligible signatories on the vote. In order for a ballot initiative to make it to the ballot, referendum I should say, there has to be 30,000 valid signatures. So this group collected 60,000, they need 30,000, and simply what the city clerk is asking us to do is to use our resources here to validate those voters to make sure that the petition is in fact valid. And the MOU calls for the city clerk to reimburse our agency as to the cost associated with doing this work on their behalf. So I have a draft copy of the MOU. I expected it in final form. It's not going to change much except that you'll see the light gray portions on the commissioner's copy are in fact in red on the original, and those will be reduced to black, and we'll sign that later this afternoon, simply asking for the commissioner's approval to go ahead and get that process underway to service the city clerk and the voters of the city of New York.
Is this the same MOU that we used in previous circumstances?
Yes, exclusive of the shaded language, which was new, which included a change in the reimbursement amount and some other language that was the subject of discussion. Yes, it is virtually the same. One significant difference is the city clerk is going to take another layer of process having nothing to do with us, but is going to require a data file inclusive of the first name, last name, address. This language is removed. We're not giving the voter serial number, but we are giving the date of the registration of the voter. So they'll get everything in item D. And then one other change is that the city clerk wants to be in possession ultimately of the marked up photocopies that we use, so that they will retain them according to the retention requirements. But in case there's litigation, it'll just be easier for them to communicate directly with the law department and get us out of that. And then if there are any additional documents that OMB may need to verify our expenditure, then we'll provide those documents to OMB as well.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Then I move that we approve the MOU as stated by Mr. Ryan. Anybody second it? Seconded by Commissioner Michelle. All in favor? Any opposed or abstain? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
And then there's one other matter that Commissioner Dent has asked that I read into the record. Pursuant to the Commissioners' meeting last week, there was a Borough Committee meeting held on July 1st between the two boroughs, between the two borough commissioners of Brooklyn, after the conclusion of the public meeting. So this is the first opportunity to report this out. And the following personnel changes in Brooklyn will take effect pursuant to the dates that I read into the record. May 1st, Daniel Ortiz is appointed Administrative Associate, replacing James Halley at an annual salary of $50,703. Danielle Sherman is appointed to Clerk, replacing Daniel Ortiz at an annual salary of $32,662. Joel Ortiz, no relation to Daniel Ortiz, is appointed as an Administrative Assistant, replacing Brenda Johnson at an annual salary of $42,659. Tobias Russo is appointed a Clerk, replacing Joel Ortiz at an annual salary of $37,000. Those are all effective May 18, 2014. Effective June 29, 2014, the following employees will retain their current positions: and Catherine Astolito at $35,088, Kasim Edwards $31,481, Rachel Nipel $70,711, Stephen H. Richmond $158,79, Thomas Sadie $84,145, William Truccio $34,904, and Nicholas Simiti $79,700. That concludes the actions of the Borough Committee of Brooklyn, and I believe that concludes the agenda items saved for executive session personnel matters for Commissioner Humane.
Commissioner, may you do a motion for executive session?
Yeah, I move that we go into executive session for personnel matters.
Second, all in favor? Okay. Come back after executive session.
Well, this has to do with the closing of the polls in September.
Okay.
It's a general application.
Okay, so come back after executive session.
Fine.
This will be here.
Not allowed? I don't think it's conducting elections. There's no voting going on here by the public.
Two matters were conducted in executive session. For the first, I will call on Commissioner Humane.
Yes, as a replacement for Susan Cooper, who untimely passed away, we've appointed Terry Drake as her replacement at her outgoing salary, and effective 7/6.
The second matter, I call on Michael Ryan.
Also, to be effective 7/6, the time has come for the boroughs to staff up for the upcoming election cycle. All of these total allocations will be divided not just by two, but in half. We have a total of 60 temps for Manhattan, 28 for the Bronx, 60 for Queens, 60 for Brooklyn, 40 for Queens, and a total of 30 for Staten Island, but 20 of those 30 include the citywide phone bank.
Mr. Flax.
I have trouble talking, but I should listen closely. I'd like to raise the issue at the closing of polls at the future elections, and the posting of the cash register receipt, as I call it, the receipt from the scanners on the wall, so the public, poll watchers news media and others can look at it. I'm not quite sure, and I can't get a straight answer from staff and the legal department. Steve wasn't there. The issue is when you post it on the wall, remember the custodians of all these polling places get paid money, so it's not a question that they can't take it down later. When it's on the wall, and under the new procedures, with these, as I call them, cash register receipts from the scanners, are stapled to the tally sheets, cutting the time the poll workers and inspectors of elections need to work because they don't have to copy onto the tally sheets those things, along with sending the flash drives over to the precincts to get the results down here as quickly as possible. What I envision is that the poll workers being told, oh, you have to return those tally sheets which are posted on the wall right away. And when you have many candidates, not a few running, say, for Congress, but many candidates, as you will have in the general election, and there may be watchers, and there may be media and so forth who want to see what that polling place did, no longer by ED, although you could do that. I could envision the workers going over and tearing them down. Since the machine, the scanners can print out more than one, more than two, they can print out literally any number of copies of it. Why can't that be just left up so if those who want to take down the tallies while everyone else or your paid workers flee the scene and just leave it there? It's not an imposition for the custodian. How much do they get, please? $200 or $300? You don't know. What about...
$200. The custodians don't get anything. The sites get paid pursuant to leases in the event that it's not a public accommodation.
It's no big deal to tear down that paper in time for school, for the public sites, if it's a public school or any other place. And why does it have to be returned? What do you do when it comes back to the warehouse and you open up things and you have that extra sheet there? Why can't it be left up there? Or if you have to return it, print two of them. One that you just return right away, just put in the return envelope after printing it out. The other you leave on the wall. Well, why can't that be left up there? Again, to iterate, I can envision your workers tearing things down and saying, sorry, they only had 10 minutes to copy down 20 or 40 tallies among 8 poll watchers.
Well, as President Reagan said to Mr. Gorbachev, tear down those returns.
We've reviewed all of the considerations, and respectfully, we're not leaving them up. We're not leaving them up all night and all day.
Well, what about time to copy that?
It's really, look, Mr. Flax, you and I have a lot of respectful conversations, and certainly we've heard your opinion. However, we differ.
Before.
No, we differ in opinion. It is going to become part of the return of canvas sheet. We're gonna comply with the not only the letter but the spirit of the Kavanaugh bill that has now allowed us to use those cash register tapes, as you say, we call them results tapes, and we're going to staple that to the return of canvas, and that's what the documentation is going to be. Plus, the other thing too is we have a requirement to balance the equities here, and the equities are not keeping the poll workers there all night, versus the rights of the people to observe the election. So the bottom line is, in the training which we are doing, the people that are there will be given ample opportunity to write down the results. The poll workers will be doing other things while that's going on, not the least of which is the paper ballot accountability forms that they're still going to have to do. So they'll have a good 20 minutes to a half hour's worth of work to do before they get antsy to take the results tapes down. And in any event, if people are still there copying, they're not going to be rushed out of the place. And if that should happen, then those poll workers will be doing something they're not supposed to do, and they'll be duly dealt with, after the fact. But it'll be incorporated into the training to make sure that nobody's rights are violated.
Well, the scanners print out.
I heard what you said, and we don't have to tread that ground again. I know we can print as many tapes as we want. The fact of the matter is, we're not going to be printing multiple tapes because we're trying to balance the equities here.
I'm not
We're
talking
trying
about
to use,
multiple tapes. I'm saying
you're talking about two, that's more than one.
if there are
right?
many scanners and many candidates and many poll watchers, they may need a little extra time.
We're going to give the time. The thing is, we're not going to waste the time of the poll workers printing out,
No, I'm
more
not
than
saying
one
that.
results tape to accommodate all of the needs of everyone. No one's going to be ushered out of the poll site before they copy down their numbers. We understand our responsibilities with respect to that, and I think that, we don't get enough credit sometimes for being as professional as we are. And while I respect your opinion, I would hope that you would also respect my opinion as well, that we took these things all into account when we presented the procedures to the commissioners. And that was one of them. And we're not going to have, a task force there ushering people out of the poll sites, quickly at the end of the night. The process is going to work the same way it always works. And I've worked on campaigns as well as been the executive director of the Board of Elections, and I can't tell you one time where the poll workers gave me a hard time about copying down the numbers. And I will say this, the system now works better than it did before, because when you were simply calling out the dial numbers on the back, it was much more difficult to get the numbers. Now those numbers are printed on a piece of paper, and the poll watchers can go over and take the numbers down and write them down in as orderly a fashion as they allow themselves amongst the little group that congregates in front of the results tapes.
I've seen a few poll sites where they take it down from the wall and sit at a vacant table away from the workers, and they just pass them around to each other and right in. That should be okay too. It doesn't have to be on the wall.
Which is, look, we're doing what we need to do. What they do amongst themselves to make it quicker for them to get out of there so that they can leave the poll workers to finishing up the work that they need to do and close the place and let everybody go home. What we're simply trying to do, keep in mind, one of the big criticisms that we have is the manner in the speed in which the results are reported out, and this is an effort to help in that regard. If in fact there is an en masse problem that you are anticipating, and it does happen, we can certainly come back to the full Board of Commissioners again and say, hey, we tried this, it didn't work, and we'll tweak the system so that it works better the next time. But this is the way we're going to be doing it moving forward. Nothing in this system, as you well know, observing it for more years than I have, is carved in granite. Everything is subject to change and adjustment, and this is certainly one of those things. But for this time, this is how we're going to do it, and if your unfortunate prediction comes true, then we'll revisit it again. And I'm certain you'll come back and remind me how I poo-pooed you, and you were right and I was wrong. But I'm not anticipating that
I
happening.
cannot cover every polling site in the entire city, but there are sites where there are open seats and many candidates decide to run. And although no more ED by ED reports, if you have a big site with 8 scanners and you have 30 people on the ballot and maybe 10 poll watchers, they may take a few minutes more and the workers will want to leave.
Our anticipation is, though, with the aggregate report, that it will make the retrieval of the numbers that much easier.
May I raise one other point collateral to this?
Well, I should check with President Sumas.
I'm in warm and fuzzy mode. Talk away.
Cuddly mode.
Let's not get crazy.
Why is it important for poll watchers still to take results from polling places? It gives a sense of, not the ED, the geography.
If I might jump in here, I was visiting Kate Duran at her poll site this past primary election, and it was not a large poll site, but it's run best, I think, out of all the poll sites.
You didn't do that, did you?
And
You praised
so-
Kate publicly?
And so,
Except it was my poll site.
Oh,
Happy.
I got you 2 weeks down. And so, even under her leadership as a coordinator, the whole site took
Not the best.
20 or 25 minutes to close, and that's just how it goes, And so
In
there
that
is
small
a,
election of a congressional.
and it was as simple. That's basically as simple as it gets.
Okay,
One-
fears for the future is one thing, and you can't base things on that. But I do want to thank you, and knowing the sloth of most workers, 20 minutes they'll be there, since I've seen them leave at 1 in the morning. I would like to raise this. It would be of interest to people in politics to know the geographic area where votes came in. and I think of the Rangel Espaillat race and the two other candidates, where at the beginning, Espaillat was beating Rangel 2-1. And where did those votes come from? Well, you could tell if you get the results by polling place. And I was informed by your text, well, we did what we had to do. We got the results from the scanners right in, quick, only 2-minute lag at the most from the time the police precincts reported it. But I said, where are they from? Where are these results from? What part of what areas, these parts of the congressional? We know, but we're not looking into it now. You know where those reports come from, which scanners they come from, and where the scanners are located, and that may be of interest to some people, to know what part of that district those reports are coming from. Again, Espaillat 2-1 over Rangel. Then all of a sudden, an hour and 40 minutes after the polls closed, it reversed.
I will say that particular report to which you're referring, because unfortunately we get bleary-eyed watching these results the same way as everybody else does. That was with less than 2% of the precincts. So yeah, it did come in at a blip 2-1, but then it tightened up, pretty quickly, and then it was neck and neck, pretty much the remainder of the evening. The further breakdown is in the system. When we first did the posting on the website as we were required, we did not do it that way because we wanted to beta test the manner in which we were able to process it. So a couple of things happened along the way, right? When we did the refresh back in November, that was on a 10-minute lag. The refresh for this last primary was on a 5-minute lag. So we're able to tighten up how often those are refreshed. And the anticipation is that the reports on the web on election night will be the manner in which they're received in the PMDs. So it is a work in progress, and we want to make sure that we're working in the way that the technology can work so that we're not crashing the system. So in a responsible way, we're working with our MIS department and our EVS, the Electronic Voting Systems department, to make sure that all of that information gets out there, but that we don't overburden the system and cause a technical problem that would otherwise happen if we don't do it carefully. We're confident that based on our processing capability and the information that comes in, that we should not have a problem doing exactly what you're suggesting we do moving forward, so that those results are available on election night. And quite frankly, if we process the election results more quickly, we'll obviate the necessity of poll watchers at the polls reading numbers off results tapes, because that information could be available on the State Board of Elections website or our website, and anybody who's got a PC or a tablet or anything that can access it can access the numbers almost just as quickly. I think in some of the smaller local races, in the big races it doesn't make as much of a difference, right? But in the smaller ones, you're still probably going to want to have poll watchers, because the people that dice up these numbers and dissect them will know that if Alan Flax wins a particular election district by a particular margin with a certain number of voters, that he's likely going to carry the day. Conversely, if you lose it, you're probably not going to win. So there's still going to be some of that turf analysis that goes on. But I think the more that we make the information available, the better it is for everybody. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and we're working on it.
Thank you.
There's one last thing before we adjourn, and that is that the temps that were hired were for a period to expire January 31st, 2015, which is through the election cycle and the certification process.
General.
Correct, what I said.
Election cycle.
Well, primary and general is an election cycle. Thank you. Question?
Yes, change of subject. Good afternoon. My name is Anna Maria Thomas. I'd like to request that when you have a room change for the weekly meeting, that it be posted.
If it makes you feel any better, they didn't tell me either.
I'm not laughing.
I'm not either.
I came in at 1:10 and did not get any information that it was changed. So I thank you all. Have a good day.
I believe it was announced at last meeting, but it could have been posted, and I apologize.
We will adjourn to next Tuesday at 1:30 in this very room. That's my motion. Second?
Second, sir.
Second by Commissioner Mayo, all in favor? Any opposed, abstained? Unanimously.